Hello, Facebook. We are live here at WordCamp Orange County 2016. My name is Say Reed with the hallway track, and I am here with Mika, whose last name she's going to say?
Epstein.
Mika Epstein, who I just wanted to pronounce it Epsteinu, because that's her handle.
That is my Epsteinu is my handle, and it means Epstein. And now you know a secret.
Okay, see, it was like the Epstein. All right, so tell me a little bit about what I have been calling your WordPress witnessing story. How did you come to WordPress? How did WordPress find you, or how did you find it?
I found WordPress because I had used B2, and that just suddenly dated how long I've been on the internet, I think. And I was looking for something that I could use to maintain a fan site that I was running for an actress. And
what was the actress?
Georgia Fox. The website is still up. It's still running WordPress. It's georgiafox.net, spelled with a J, J-O-R-J-A.
I love the .net. Okay, so you were looking.
I didn't want to use .com because I wasn't her, and I thought it would be rude.
That was very netiquette of you, netiquette savvy of you. So you were trying to make this site so that you could sustain it. Tell me about that discovery process and how building that site went.
I was terrible at designing a site at first. I found some ideas that I liked out on the internet, so I downloaded a theme, I edited it, and I started posting news, like the episodes of ER that she was on, the episodes of West Wing, and then CSI, and then that carried me on for 16 years of talking about CSI. And now the site's kind of a little slow, but it's going to pick up again soon, I have a feeling.
Do you know something we don't know about Georgia Fox? Is that...
Do I know something you don't know about Georgia Fox? No, but I do know that I'm in possession of a mess of posters that she gave me and asked me if I would mind selling them via eBay to raise money for Surfrider, and I just have to get around to doing that. So as soon as I can do that, there will be a little more activity.
So basically, through your discovery of WordPress and fan sites, you're now talking with and selling posters for Georgia Fox? Is this what I'm... So
that is actually accurate, yes.
Okay. WordPress can bring you closer to your heroes and your people that you admire, is what I've learned from Mika today. All right, so that's a pretty fun story. So after that, what did you think about WordPress? What was your experience with that first site?
Using that first site, I ran into a whole mess of problems with this thing called mod security. Most web hosts run it on the back end. It stops people from being able to hack into your site before they get to WordPress. And I'm a huge fan of it, but for some reason, every time I posted a post with the word about in it, I couldn't post anymore. My site would go to a 404, and I was just so frustrated. I started Googling it. I found an answer on the WordPress.org support forums, thanked the person who helped me figure this out, and continued on realizing, hey, wait a minute, I know how to solve this other person's HT-access problem. And it snowballed. And all of a sudden, every time I got bored at work, this is back in the day when you had to wait for your code to compile. So you'd start a code compile and you'd go, well, I have an hour and a half to kill. That's all my computer can do, except for surf the internet. I'll go surf this WordPress thing and learn more about it because it seems interesting. And now I work in it professionally for DreamHost.
Yeah, and you also, it seems, have not stopped being in those support forums and being that voice of engagement for the community. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing now with the WordPress specifically.
I actually am on a sabbatical from being active in the support forums because I took over 6 months ago as the plugin repository representative, which is a lot of work. I am revamping the guidelines, or I'm heading and steering the revamping of the guidelines. I am coalescing all of our disparate information into a handbook, which I hope to have done by the end of next week. I'm crossing my fingers on that. I really don't know if I can do it. And I'm organizing everything so that when the plugin revamp is done by Team Apollo, which is Constantine is running that, I will be able to actually let new people in to review new plugins instead of just the 5 of us. It'll be so nice.
Because you've implemented a standard by which people can then do the reviews and be more involved.
Exactly. Right now we have an understood standard that we all understand from being a direct mentor student, how you do a review, how you go through the process. But that's not sustainable if you want to expand a team to a great degree. So you have to actually codify and coalesce and sit down and do the work of making things out of your head and on paper. It takes a lot of work, and I've been writing those documents for almost half a year, trying to get things out of my head and make them clear in English that more people can understand.
So this is actually something I think has started happening at the it's been happening in documentation, and the Codex has been there, since WordPress has been there, but the push to really document those processes so that people can be more involved in plugin review, in theme review, in participating, in helping with WordPress to help it develop, to help it grow. And that basically started around San Francisco, the real big push for that. Did you, 2014, I think, something like that?
Yeah. Sometime around 2014, we all decided we needed to document, but at the time, the plugin team was even smaller. It was half the size it is today.
So 2.5 people.
I was the half person at the time. I was the first. I was
also
the
half-elf.
halfelf.org.
Halfelf.org. So she's not kidding about the half person thing.
I had just started being a more active member of the plugin review team, and I was figuring out how to do the reviews and asking questions and writing my notes down. And just in WordCamp US, when we had the contributor or the community summit, that's what it was. Yeah. The community summit before the WordCamp is when we all sat down and we said, okay, I'm willing to take this job on and to go forth and take all this information we've been building for the last year and a half, 2 years, and make it something. So yeah, we've been working on this for a while, but just sort of not in any organized way. And now we're actually organized.
So tell me a little bit about that process, taking something that is open source and community based, but also in a strange way insular and isolated at the same time. What are some of the particular challenges in making that so that it is really open so that people can participate more freely?
The two main problems facing the plugin team specifically is privacy and privileged information, which is sort of one group. And then the other group is this weird thing of we don't want to let on too much to people who do evil things of exactly what we're looking for so that they can be caught, as opposed to going, oh, well, I know they're looking for example, base64 encrypted code that you can't read. Therefore, I'm going to do it in this other crafty way that they won't notice. And they do. And they try that so hard, and so it's sort of like why Akismet is behind a paywall and why you can't see that code, because they don't want people to know exactly what they're looking for, so it's harder for them to abuse. And we're walking this delicate balance where I want everyone to know what we're looking for, but I don't want the people doing the bad things to know what I'm looking for. And how do I communicate that? And at the same time, I have information that can't be made public about security flaws. I cannot release that to the public until there's a fix. I can't announce things like, we banned this user because he called somebody names that shouldn't be said in public, because that would humiliate them and never give them the chance to recover from such an action. So we have to balance out how much we say in public with how much we allow someone to make mistakes, recover, and go forward.
How do you feel that affects the WordPress community? I know as people are at this level, kind of at WordCamps, and they're connecting to the community, and they try to connect. Do you find that people understand that limitation that you're describing there, that fine line, or do you find that they resist that, or that just discourages them from getting involved?
About 75% of people I've talked to, once I explain that this is why things are going this way, go, oh, this makes sense, I understand it. The 25% that are left are torn between, well, no, everything should be open, you should always talk about everything in public, and there should not be an issue with privacy, and you don't know what you're talking about. That's about 20%, and then 5% are people that are just kind of confused about, well, why does any of that matter in the first place? It's surprising how many people think, well, but who cares? Well, you know what? You'd care if you knew, for example, it's illegal to take someone's data in Germany without having their absolute consent. You can't even take your name down, can't take an email address unless they say, yes, I permit you to take these things. So people who are doing data collection on WordPress and their plugins, the reason we close your plugins down is because we're trying to save you from a lawsuit.
In Germany.
In Germany.
So that is given the global nature of WordPress, that is actually really a contingency that I'm the people who are in whatever geography land they're in aren't necessarily considering, that you are definitely having to consider, because you are looking at the entirety of the international WordPress sphere. So how, obviously that example with Germany, is there another example of how that impacts what you do, the fact that there are different laws in different places, different cultures?
Oh, sure, the GPL. Flat out, the GPL is the biggest confusion factor that you can have with plugins, especially when you consider...
Can you define the GPL real quick?
Defining the GPL is the GNU public license. Version 2 is the one that WordPress is licensed under. All plugins hosted on the WordPress.org repository must be compatible with the GPL v2 or later.
You totally just like switched into robot mode right there.
I have memorized that because it is my default answer. I don't have a personal take on what the spirit of the GPL is. What I know is that we decided everything in the repository must be compatible. That's what it is. You may choose to agree with this decision or not, but that's the decision that was made before I even started on the team. I will defend this decision and support it. And I understand why we had to do it, because we had to figure out what licenses are we going to allow? What ones aren't we going to allow? What would possibly get us in trouble? What wouldn't? And once you make that decision, it gets a little easier. You get to say things like, well, okay, MIT, the MIT license, for example, is compatible with the GPL, but Creative Commons v3 is not, so you can't use that code in your plugin. It starts getting really slippery when sometimes a license, like there's a license called the WTF license, and yes, it means what you're thinking it means. It actually, if I remember this right, it lost in a court of law in the EU that was not a sustainable, valid license, but it is according to the GNU GPL, so we permit it, but in some situations it's not okay. Whenever we're aware of international issues, we try to make developers aware of it and say, hey, just so you know, this might cause you problems in another country. Or even less weird than that is, did you know that some web hosts don't let you send emails if the address doesn't match the domain it's sending from? You should maybe not have this send from your email, but from the server itself. Just little stuff.
Yeah, just little stuff that totally impacts people's businesses and choices. So that international approach, do you see that growing? And obviously that contributes to the difficulties and the need to grow the team. But what's kind of the global outlook for WordPress right now? Do you know what's going on with all of that in terms of expansion and development?
The biggest issue we have with the global outlook is that I don't speak every language. I can make my way through French.
You're not a polyglot.
No, I'm not.
All the glot. Panglot.
I am not a panglot. I can make my way through French. If I need someone to help me with German or Russian, I have really quick access for that. If I need help with Spanish, we've got a few people that are fantastic with it and are willing to help at any time. We start hitting a wall. We get a lot more Korean and Japanese developers these days, which is fantastic because different cultures approach code in completely different ways, but also they're trying to solve different problems that we would never think of in America. It's just kind of awesome, but at the same time, when I'm trying to read their code comments, it can be a little interesting. I'm always pasting into Google Translate and praying that I get something vaguely related to what I just read. But that's the biggest hurdle we're facing, but I only see this getting bigger, and more people from foreign countries are going to want to submit in their own language, which I want to have happen. I want to see WordPress explode in the global world, because if you want to power more than 26% of the internet, English is not the way to do it. We've got to start looking at other languages.
That's a pretty interesting and open challenge. And so that kind of leads into my next question is, what are you might say that's something you're concerned about going into the future, but it's also exciting. But what is exciting for you on the horizon that's coming up in terms of the participation that you do with WordPress or in the next year?
I actually don't know what I'm looking forward to in the next year. Right now, I'm looking forward to the new plugin repository, because as soon as we get a better back end to how we do all the plugin reviews, I will be saving hours of time a week, and then I'll be able to train people, and then I'll be able to make sure everything is up. But right now we're treading water. So what I'm really looking forward to is the completion of Project Apollo. I'm really looking forward to getting to expand the team and to figure out where are our smaller flaws that we're missing in the mask of these big ones that we know about.
Yeah, so no small task.
No, everything's big.
It's all big. One more question. In terms of the WordCamp community, when did you first start getting involved in that?
My very first WordCamp was WordCamp Montreal in, I want to say, 2011, and in 2 weeks I will be going back to WordCamp Montreal to speak at it, to kind of give a full circle and then spiral on outward to wherever I'm going next with WordCamps. My first WordCamp, I was too afraid to speak. I was terrified. But I went because I was going on vacation to Montreal anyway. The WordCamp was going to be there. I wanted to meet Andrea Rennick, so it was $20. And then someone gave me a free ticket. I'm like, well, okay, now I'll go. I think the trip itself was ridiculously inexpensive too. I want to say I paid like $100 for my flight for me and my wife at the time, which was just crazy. And we had a wonderful time, and I had never felt more welcomed. And I got to meet people like Otto and Nason and Matt. And suddenly I realized that all of these things, these are just the same people I'm talking to online, and it's not that scary. And I wasn't that intimidated. These were just people. And this was a community that wanted me, and I wanted to stay, so I did.
That's really beautiful.
It is.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to Montreal. Je suis Québécois. So my mother's born in Montreal, so I am actually registered legally as a Québécois citizen.
Aw. Well, merci bien for participating and talking to us today. And also thank you very much from both myself and on behalf of the entire community for all the work that you do, because without people like yourself and heading up and taking on these challenges, WordPress would not be able to be what it is to so many people. So all of us owe you a real debt of gratitude, and any encouragement and support that we can give you. Any encouragement and support you can give these people, do it, because they are enabling us to have this software that enables us to do all this stuff. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right. Thanks. Bye.